The state of generative AI. We've got the report in partnership with MarketMuse. Did you know that only about 12% of businesses are using generative AI tools at the company level? That means individuals are going rogue. What do you do? Mike King has got your playbook, the strategy, the content strategy, the generative AI content strategy and governance that you need, and search generative experience. So many opinions still out there. We've got Kevin Indigs, Barry Schwartz, Marie Haynes, Cyrus Shepard, John Cooper, AJ Cohn, all these opinions, and SEO for News best practices. The Google Search Advocate team, including Dan Weisberg and Cherry Pramawin on it. Let's dive in. So much good stuff. This might be the best episode of the SEO Weekly. Do you believe me? You're gonna have to see for yourself. Check it out. Welcome back to the SEO Weekly, where queries are weird, advice is controversial, and everything depends. I'm your host, Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and every week I cover everything going on in the world of SEO, and holy moly, do we have a lot. Google I/O, search generative experience, blog posts, SEO Twitter takes, podcasts, webinars, you name it, I'm on it. If you're into this stuff, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a like, leave us a comment, share on the socials. I genuinely appreciate it, but there is a lot to cover. So let's dive in. So obviously last week was the big Google news with Google I/O, the search generative experience. We covered it extensively. There's more in the later part of the SEO Weekly about this, but in terms of just normal Google updates, not a ton. There was a really cool lightning talk for SEO best practices for news. This was with Daniel Weisberg, search advocate, as well as Cherry Pramawin, and they talked all about how do you show up in news. Basically, you need to be eligible. You need to create helpful content. It needs to be consistent. You need to show who it comes from. And then some of those best practices are all around EEAT, showing off your experience, your expertise, your authoritativeness, trustworthiness, ensuring dates. Dates are a big thing in news. So both in the actual written content, having the published date and then any sort of update, modified date, actually explicit in the content, and then structured data as well. If it's an article schema, you want to make sure that you have the actual published date, and then if you modify it significantly, you have the updated date as well. Images and videos are really important for news, so make sure you follow the best practices there. And then ultimately just following the news policy. One that Cherry calls out, which makes a ton of sense, but just one to think about, is obviously you're trying to monetize traffic. You're putting a lot of advertisements all over. The advertisements really shouldn't exceed the actual news content. Really helpful, great lightning talk by them if you are in SEO for news. Okay, so it's a slow Google News week, obviously, aside from all the SGE stuff when I'm reporting on Googlebot. But Google did add a new user agent, basically the Google-InspectionTool, to be used for rich snippet results, as well as the URL inspection tool, both with Google Search Console. Nothing really to report on, exciting, whatever, but there you have it if you're into this stuff about the Google bots. So the big news this week is iPullRank, in partnership with MarketMuse, has put out our first State of Generative AI report, which you can download. The link is in the show notes. And basically what we did is back in March, we reached out to over 100 different executives, marketing folks, agency folks across industries, and asked them their perspective on generative AI tools, how that's impacting content creation, you name it, whether it's being kind of brought into their organizations. Really interesting results. One of the things that really stuck out to me was the idea. We asked them two separate questions. Does generative AI help your workflow? And does generative AI hinder your workflow? And the results are surprising because 90% are already saying, yeah, it's helping our workflow. And yet 78.3% are already saying, yeah, it hinders our workflow. And I think those conflicting sort of results aren't mutually exclusive. It really speaks to we're all figuring out how to use generative AI because it is the future. In fact, MarketMuse's co-founder, Jeff Coyle, said, "It's crucial to keep your customer needs and business goals as the priority and use generative AI to augment your process versus replace. Customers can identify inauthentic voices, and it's hard to gain that trust back. Consumers are looking for content that feels genuine and reflects the values and beliefs of the companies with which they engage. Organizations need to be careful generative AI doesn't detract from that. Exhibiting expertise is no longer enough to survive in content marketing. Content must be both authentic and authenticable." So it's really important that you are using it to bake it into your existing processes and finding those efficiencies and those productivity jumps. But you also need to make sure you're doing QA. And for the big movers, the big organizations, the enterprises, this is a relatively slow process to adopt generative AI. In fact, we asked participants and they said, only like 49% of people are using it at an individual level. Only 33% are using it at the team or department level. And only 12% are using it organizationally. So people are going rogue. People are using ChatGPT. People are using Midjourney individually, not under the general guidelines of their entire organization, which can be problematic. Now, Brittany Mueller, the consultant and an ML AI hobbyist of Data Sci 101, shared her perspective. She said, "SEOs, myself included, want to have this new class of AI technology all figured out, but we don't. We're still in the midst of figuring out how to best integrate AI into workflows and have yet to see the results. Feel the ChatGPT barred shine will start to wear off as we continue to familiarize ourselves with their limitations. Also, you aren't behind if you aren't using AI right now, but you should start to familiarize yourself with the technology and how it works at a fundamental level to better navigate this ever-evolving landscape." So we cover that and so much more in the State of AI. We're actually going to do a round 2 to compare results, in Q3 versus what people thought back in March, because I'm sure people's perspectives are already changing. However, I am curious, are you using generative AI individually, at a team level, at an organizational level? Not at all? How are you using it? Is it hindering or helping your workflow? Let me know in the comments. I'm very curious. And download the full report for free at iPullRank. The link is in there. We'd love to get your perspective on it, and you can participate in the next round of the survey. Moving on. Content strategy and governance with AI. It's definitely an important topic that we need to cover. And iPullRank, kind of going with our whole report, Mike King wrote an article all about how you still need an AI content strategy, that you need to be at the organizational level thinking about who's in charge of AI? How are you integrating it, baking it into your workflows, to your traditional content strategy? Not everything needs to change, but you need to have those policies in place of approved usage of specific tools that might already work within your workflows. And who's doing QA? What level of QA are you doing? For example, if you are not doing a great job at checking facts, but you start using generative AI, you need to make sure that you up that game. Mike goes into it in depth in this article. And last Thursday, he joined me and Kyle Marino of iPullRank, our senior content strategist, to talk about what that meant on a LinkedIn Live. In fact, Mike, what do you think we should be doing with AI, generative AI content strategy? Kind of give us your perspective. Let's hear it.
I mean, I think that the same general approach that the content strategy discipline takes is what is required here. Like, what is the core strategy for content that we're creating? What are the workflows that we need to build out? What's the structure of the content that we're creating? What sort of like content models need to be, adhered to? What are the governance models? How are you going to be maintaining this stuff? All the same basic stuff that you should be doing for your content in general. It's really how do we plug these generative AI tools into that. It's not so much like, how do we come up with a brand new strategy as a result of these things? Really, how do you augment an existing strategy? But the problem is most companies still don't have a defined content strategy to begin with.
So there you have it. Generative AI and content strategy, hand in hand, important. You're not too late. There's opportunities for businesses to be a first mover when it comes to this. However, in the long run, it's something that you absolutely need to do. So if you are in your organization sounding the alarms or bringing it to the forefront, it's an opportunity for you at a career level, because everybody needs to learn how to use these tools, but you can be the person who brings it to the organization. In fact, we actually just launched our generative AI content services. So if you do need help kind of like putting those practices and processes and workflows and governance and tools in place, that's something iPullRank can actually help you out with. Okay, so AI regulation may or may not be happening. Last week, the big news was Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, went to Washington and spoke to Congress all about his perception on AI regulation, the need for it, how to mitigate risks, what to consider in terms of creativity and job loss, this, that, and the other thing. The big takeaway, and it's obvious that lawmakers don't understand the technology, and it's super problematic if they have to regulate it. Now, to Altman's credit, he downplayed the technology, that it's not some magical miracle alive sort of thing. He, realized that there are potential risks for it. However, with anything politics related, you gotta question what people's motives or angles are, and not to be a skeptic or a cynic, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. Right now, OpenAI is ahead of the game when it comes to their large language model and ChatGPT. Google's close behind. There are other tools coming out, Anthropic and Neva, and so many other AI tools built on these large language models. Will 80-year-olds who don't know how to use email or their phones or anything like that be able to say, this is safe, this isn't safe, this is regulated, this isn't? I'm not going to get too political here, but obviously with, the financial industry or the health industry, there's struggles there. So technology, I'm not going to be holding my breath, but at least it's not a complete wild, wild west. Like, it's on the radar. They know it's important. I don't know. What do you think? Is the US government capable of regulating AI technology? So back on the 11th, BuzzFeed hosted their Investors Day event where they went through their plans going forward for BuzzFeed. Now, as you may or may not know, BuzzFeed News was killed, put down, whatever, journalism, it's sad, but they are going all in AI. They made that announcement a few months ago and their stock soared. Well, we finally got a look at the presentation. The deck was kind of put out on Twitter, and you can tell they're going all in. They're doing it for their quizzes. They're doing AI-enabled content. They're kind of having this whole sort of three-headed monster of like content and AI and creators and whatnot. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how this moves going forward. Obviously, as a brand, BuzzFeed has a lot of advertisers, and they talk a lot about keeping those brands safe, that it's a brand safe network. And so with their use of AI, obviously that's going to impact their SEO strategy. We kind of hit them hard with some of their SEO generated articles in the past that didn't have a lot of value, especially the travel related one to Kate May that we did in a past episode. Either way, I give BuzzFeed credit for kind of being transparent and saying they're going all in. Will this lead to problematic AI content? Possibly. But ultimately, I think they are a first mover that will probably figure things out before most other organizations do. So as you saw, hot takes that I had with the search generative experience that came out last week in the SEO Weekly, we continue to see more perspectives and takes flooding the internet. So John Cooper had a really great roundtable with a lot of really respected SEOs. Marie Haynes, AJ Cohn, Cyrus Shepard, all came on and they discussed what they think the implications are for search, the generative experience. Now, it was interesting because AJ Cohn does a great job of cautioning us in that it's a large language model, right? What we have right now is just a very, very, very smart autocomplete, basically finishing sentences, but it's not thinking. There's that misconception there. Marie Haynes is very optimistic on how it's going to impact, content and SEO in a very positive way. And Cyrus kind of talks about the idea of how it may or may not impact certain types of jobs, other types of jobs. But ultimately, when it comes back to these tools, all three of them are aware of the potential. And it's a great conversation. One highlight of AJ Cohn is when he was talking about what you should potentially do or what someone could potentially do using it for unique, hard, difficult tasks. He gave an example in the sense of Google patents. Take it away, AJ.
My advice generally has been don't use generative AI to write article content on stuff. Like, I just don't think that's a great use of it. Of like, hey, write an article about the best tips on international SEO. It's just going to be garbage at the end of the day. It's not going to do that much. There were people who were doing stuff like interesting stuff about hey, take the S1s and write a story based on, the S1. That's more interesting, right? That's stuff where it's like, all right, that's a dense freaking document. Bill Slawski, for, may he rest in peace. We don't have somebody who's looking at Google patents, but okay. Can we have articles written about Google patents based on this? Might be interesting, right? No one else is doing it now.
So what do you think? They have a lot of perspectives. Definitely watch the rest of that roundtable because they go on. It's an hour. You can put it on the 1.5. That's what I do. It's okay if you do that for my videos as well, as 1.5 playback, because sometimes sitting through it, I talk fast. But anyway, great roundtable, great perspectives. Appreciate that and can't wait to hear more. I love all of these hot takes with SGE and AI, as you can tell. So Kevin Indigs shared his thoughts on Twitter, then in a bigger blog post all around the search generative experience presentation, the implications, what was said, what wasn't said, and he had some really interesting takeaways. One thing that I love that he thought about is that SEO, from his perspective, will be split into 3 different categories. You'll have the AI snapshot, so that's everything produced in generative AI. So, from the example, the text, the big images, the added video, as that comes down, all in that visual color bubble, if you will. Perspectives, which is all of these sort of personal opinions, the thought leadership, the relevant, not just informational content that's connected that Google rolled out. As Kevin mentioned, and I kind of agree, it's potentially hit or miss. We don't know how good Google will be at surfacing these hidden gems. That's what they're trying to do with the helpful content update that will be rolled out in a few weeks. But will it work? Will it actually be hidden gems? And that's one of the criticisms of Google search in general, is that it hasn't been that great at surfacing this valuable content. And the third one is just the non-AI snapshot. What happens to organic links below this threshold, whatever it looks like? Like, does it even matter anymore? Where are you going to get your clicks from? In fact, I covered a lot of this on the most recent episode of the Rankable podcast. I had Barry Schwartz on of Search Engine Roundtable and Rusty Brick, and we talked about all of this stuff, covering the issues of reporting. Will Google report on the search generative experience? Also, this whole idea of fluidity versus factuality. For the AI snapshot and the converse back and forth with Google, they on purpose are trying to make it more factual than just conversational because, well, I'll let Barry tell.
No, not a lot of people are talking about this, and it goes deep. And I had a lot of conversation with Liz Reed, VP of Search at Google as well, talking about this. and they're very, very nervous about giving the wrong answer because there's this whole concept around the way the AI speaks to you, if it speaks in a fluid way versus a factual way. And what surprised me is when they told me if the AI responds in a more fluid fashion, people trust it more than if it speaks in more of a factual way, which is interesting. You think people who say this is the answer, that is the end, you would think that confidence will be whatever, but people only trust more fluid stuff, which is interesting in terms of you think about all the politics now, and people lying in politics, but yet the way they talk, people trust them. I guess that's an interesting point. Now, Google's very, very concerned about providing wrong information, especially in the YMYL category, your money, your life, but also civic duties type of stuff, which is very interesting. And they probably will respond with some answers, but they might not, depending on the type of query it is. And even stuff when they don't have a high degree of what they call like high degree of standard or high degree of like certainty about a certain topic, they will pull back and say, we are not generating an answer. Even the answers they do generate have disclaimers that it's generated by AI. It's crazy to me how many people are going to these AI bots, Bard, Bing Chat, ChatGPT, asking it a question, getting an answer, and believing it no matter what it says. It hallucinates like crazy. It's getting better, but people just trust it. And it's insane. I think Google's saying you can't always trust it. And the cases where we're not 99% sure that you could trust it, we're going to go ahead and say we're going to be safer and not show an answer, which is commendable.
So definitely check out the entire episode of the Rankable podcast that I had with Barry. We deep dive, we share our thoughts. But back to Kevin, one of the other things that he said that was really interesting is that SEOs are really going to need to develop some other skill sets. For instance, brand images, the images are going to be really important because we saw from the thumbnails that those show up, those visuals are going to matter in terms of getting people to click from Google to your website. Ultimately, we still don't know how this will play out. No one's really gotten their hands on the experiment at this point and shared a lot more of it in practice, and it'll iterate over time. But it's something that we need to continue to prepare for going forward, to continue to focus on EEAT signals. Remember, show your experience, show your expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. Don't avoid generative AI content. It can absolutely help, but you need to ensure that your human-centric, authentic self is represented in your content and it's not just robot babble. You know what I'm saying? So a couple of weeks ago, Aleda Solis was collecting responses for her big SEO auditing survey in which a ton of SEOs shared their perspectives on auditing, challenges, priorities, this, that, and the other thing. And now a little bit of a slow burn, really smart rollout of those results. And the first of which came out last week on LinkedIn and on Twitter, where Aleda shared what were some of the biggest challenges that SEOs encountered when it comes to auditing. And those were decision makers' priorities and understanding, organizational factors, technical and overall constraints. And what I love about the way that Aleda is sharing the insights from the survey is she's also sharing her perspective on how to overcome these. So in the thread, she kind of goes through each specific issue, flowchart she created, how she helped. So keep your eyes peeled. Amazing follow. And speaking of keep your eyes peeled, I recorded an episode of Crawling Mondays with Aleda all about SEO myths with Azim Ahmad last week. It probably will be a few months before it's actually published, but poof, hyped. So good. So much fun. I love what she puts out. How do you accelerate your content creation process with keyword clusters? Really cool Twitter Spaces chat that I got the privilege to kind of sit in on and listen to last week with Jonas Sickler and Alice Rowan talking all about building these topic clusters for content creation. What was really interesting, some of the key takeaways, for instance, Alice talked about the idea of reverse engineering your lead magnets to build out these keyword topic clusters, and then how they're actually a really great source of EEAT. Think about it. As you get more into the granular nitty gritty, persona seeking, you are identifying experience, right? Like expertise, what specifically matters to that specific situation. Boom. And then Jonas he's been writing about topic clusters clusters forever and knows the stuff inside out. I like the way he thinks about it almost in an omni-channel, that it's not just about SEO. It's more of a general customer audience research understanding method to expand upon your breadth and knowledge and authoritativeness. So great Twitter Spaces, worth a listen. Definitely check it out. Awesome work, SEMrush, for making that happen. And for some practical SEO, old school, get it done information, John Doherty of Editor Ninja put together a how to write title tags, that actually get clicked, that get attention. He broke down 7 different options, and it's really straightforward, worth thinking about. Not a lot of people do this, so keep them short and focused. Add numbers and years. People like clicking that. Use your main keyword appropriately. Consider dropping the brand name. Keep grammar and punctuation consistent and proper, and make them unique from all the pages. Oh, and lean on intrigue. Great tips from John, and he breaks down each one of those, so check out that article. So another cool SEO tool that's getting a little bit of buzz recently. This is by co-founder Robin Allison, called Similar AI. Cyrus Shepard pointed out, he put a great tweet that highlights the demo experience that he had with Robin, basically calling out that Similar AI was the best example of site-wide keyword and topic clustering, auto category nav page creation, ChatGPT integration at scale, internal links, A/B testing, does a whole bunch of really interesting things. There are so many of these cool tools out there. Similar AI is one that you should probably consider, along with like Keyword Insights and obviously our rank tracking software, Exact Science and OrbitWise. So many, but really cool. I was looking at the website. I need to get a demo done myself because it looks really interesting, some of the capabilities to be able to try that out for SEO using like that AI component. Schema, structured data. We talk about it a lot on the show, and part of the reason why is we know it's important. It makes Google understand your information so much more clearly. And there are a bunch of cool tools out there. We actually covered Schema Zoo last week. This week got another really cool tool from Saijo George of Supple. This is the how-to schema generator. So this is specifically for how-to schema, being able to add the videos and images and tools, and then step by step to put that schema right on your website so Google knows exactly what you're trying to say in your article that has how-to information. If you use Google Analytics, every time you go on at this point, you see that countdown timer that July is coming and it's not going to be delayed. You'll still have access to some of your own data, but new data will not be collected. You need to know GA4. There are a bunch of playbooks out there. Brie Anderson does a lot of really great GA4 tutorials and reports, but one that caught my attention is from Dana DiTomaso and Kickpoint. Now, Dana has a LinkedIn course as well, but they broke down a how to set up GA4 tutorial that's really clear, really useful, and all just written down so you can go step by step. So if you have not set up GA4 for your website, the best time to do it was yesterday. The next best time is to do it today. Do it before it's too late, whether you like it or not. Or, I mean, if you're going to move on to another analytics tool that's not Google, go for that too. But if you want to use Universal Analytics, July, it's going bye-bye. So GA4, check out Dana's tutorial. That's it. Another episode of the SEO Weekly in the books. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you're into this, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. Leave us a comment. I genuinely appreciate it. Share on the socials. It'll make my day. That's it. My name is Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and I will see you next week. It'll be a little delayed. It's Memorial weekend on that Monday, so it'll probably come out Tuesday if I don't take a week off. But it'll probably come out Tuesday. Seriously. I'll see you next week.